Nicole. This is a Kelly podcast on The Real, and it is Halloween.
Yes, it is.
It's Halloween, and I was with my daughter earlier this week, and so we were getting ready, and I was like, oh yeah, what are we going to wear? What are we going to do? And then I was like, I have to work. I'm going to show. I was like, what am I thinking? So, that didn't work out too well. And I felt horrible because I'm always with my babies on Halloween. But, it's a special thing that we're doing tonight.
Right.
And I really, really wanted to cover this topic. Yes. This is something close to my heart. And working in the prison industry, working with the prison community and, doing things like prison ministry, women's prison ministry. I've done so many different things, and I absolutely love going inside. Yeah. And it is something that has been on my heart to do. Right. I worked with the Kairos team, and I even actually got my girls involved to where we would cook meals.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, and then the guys would take the meals in to the guys.
Oh, wow.
And so there were so many people brought to Christ during that time.
Wow.
Yeah, it was amazing. It was really, really amazing. And when you see a grown man give himself, and and I'm talking about grown men that have been through life,
right?
The struggles and the hardships that we can't even fathom,
right?
When you see them break down and you see them shed that tough exterior off of them, it really is an eye opener.
And just to go back to us talking about our children and wanting to be there for those special moments, like Halloween or all those other things, that leads right into what we're talking about tonight.
Yes.
How the children are impacted by parents who are incarcerated. Because,
absolutely.
Our children, we might miss us for small little, but they don't know really the devastation of having a parent gone or locked up away from them for an extended period of time. So that was kind of a good, segue. It's what we're talking about tonight. So.
Yeah, because my daughter may not see me for 2 hours,
right.
And there are parents out there. If not one of the parents or both of them are incarcerated, and they're being raised either in foster homes, which is it's a huge number, or by grandparents, aunts, uncles, whoever. And so it's almost like a lot of these children tend to fall through the cracks, especially as they get older into their adolescent years. They experience so many trials and tribulations that we can't even, wrap our head around. And so I always tell my kids, be grateful and thankful for every moment, because, we all make mistakes, and not one of us is better than the other. And we've all sinned differently. And I've told people, I said, I was just lucky. I was just very, very lucky. Yes. And I think I was lucky enough that, I was given a platform so I would be able to help other people. Because some of the things I've done, in my life, that, yes, people know about or I've shared, before. But, I just got lucky. Yes. And so I say that, and I don't say that in a bragging way or anything like that. I say that because a lot of people, they have done far worse and far less than I have. But that being said, the children, and I was reading the statistics on them, and the dropout rate, the education rate is just a drastic difference in numbers as to, when you have a parent who's incarcerated.
Right, and you share those numbers with me, and they're like triple.
Yes, absolutely.
The rate, which is alarming. And, you mentioned in the beginning how, there's these different ministries for the women who are locked up, for the men who are locked up, but we don't hear a lot for the ministries for the children, like who reaches out to these children, who looks out for them, during these hard times.
Exactly, because it's hush hush.
Yeah.
And that's the thing is, a child is embarrassed. They're embarrassed. They don't want to talk about it. And I was reading, they have some retreats around the U.S. And so these retreats, these children go, and it's almost like a group of them. They become friends, and over the years they go to these same retreats, and they're funded by the government, different agencies, things like that. But they go to these retreats, they make friends, but they're able to share their feelings, and they're able to communicate and have friendships with these other kids whose parents are incarcerated. And that to me is like, why don't we have more of that? More of that.
Yeah.
Because it's not the child's fault.
Right.
And the child should not walk in their parents' footsteps. It's not fair to the child. Whether, I can't say the parent did wrong or right, it's not for me to judge or whatever, but why does it seem to fall on the child? What can we do as a society as a whole to help these children so that these numbers can fall drastically?
And here's what you're doing is absolutely one of the first steps, just bringing about the awareness and really talking about it and really having conversations. And so people can begin to question, why don't we have programs? We hear about the adults who are incarcerated and the many programs that are offered to them, but what about the children that are impacted? I briefly, looked over, the statistics and the paper, the sheets that you put on, and the likelihood of someone repeating those same patterns increases significantly. So if you have a parent who's incarcerated, well, 9 times out of 10, you're going to have a child who's going to walk in those same steps.
Absolutely.
So I think what you're doing is the first step in how we can begin to resolve this issue. So I really like what you're doing. And just from my personal experience.
Let's talk about that.
Yeah.
I brought Nicole. She's amazing. And I love working with Nicole. And there's a reason that her and I are covering this topic today. And I had no idea about her life and, what's going on and what's happened in the past. I didn't even ask. I just, I brought her this topic.
Right.
And when she told me, it was like, that was just another thing that,
Right.
that
So,
added to the cake.
Right. So I have a father who was incarcerated, an uncle who's on death row. 3 of my older brothers were in prison and out of the system most, if not all, of their lives. And I remember as a little girl just going into this dark place, the doors shutting behind us, and thinking I wasn't going to get out, and being scared. And so I remember that, and I was young, maybe 2-3 years old, and I still remember that. And then
you remember that noise?
Yes.
That slam.
And crying, like thinking that I was going to get locked up, and then having to leave and not understanding why Daddy can't go, or why Uncle can't go, or why we have to leave my brother here. So I can just, and I was a young child, and so I can just only imagine what these other children are going through. I mean, even my husband, was in a car accident and ended up having to spend some time in jail. And, I recall taking my son and my daughter and how that impacted them, negatively. And they were older, and sometimes you think because they're older, they can, handle it or they have some understanding. But no, because when you go there, it's almost like you're a prisoner too. You're treated the same way. You have to get your things checked.
Yeah.
And, it's
you
like,
violated.
yeah. And you don't want your children to think that this is okay, because a lot of times, you look up to your parent or to your father, or you want to be like them. So at the same time, you want them to love them, or you want them to tell them at the same time, this is not where you want to be.
Right.
So I can just only imagine if there are children who are born in prison. There are documentaries and movies that we see about that, and it's just alarming rates, and it's increasing. It's increasing, and so I am curious, and now like, what can we do to put this out here more, and what can we do? I just recently found out, being the holidays, that I didn't even know that they have a program where you can adopt a child, kind of like sponsor them for the holidays or even throughout their life. I think it's called the Giving Tree, and it's specifically for children whose parents are incarcerated. I'm like, why isn't that spread around everywhere?
Exactly.
Like, why is everybody talking about this?
Exactly, and that's what the problem is everything's so hush-hush.
Mm-hmm.
We know that we've made mistakes. We know that, there are incarcerated parents. And the children, I get that they don't want to speak of it in schools and things like that. I understand that because, for a child, they're going through enough. And so it's almost, and I'm not going to say it's embarrassing for them, but it is. It is embarrassing, and it is something they feel shame, and they just don't want to talk about it. And that's what really gets me. And I don't want to cry, but I've seen little ones, and they go through hell. Yeah. And they feel lost. Mm-hmm. They don't know who to turn to, where to go. And the mom or the dad, the parent who's taking care or the guardian, they're already dealing with so much. Yes. And so we've got to, in every city, every state, come up with some kind of program to where these children can go and feel safe. Yes. They have a safe haven place. It's okay for them to talk about how they feel, or to cry, or to have a mentor. Yes. Gosh, we need so many mentors. And it's alarming to me how Houston is an amazing city. Yes. I mean, I can call in September and get on a list, for giving and helping you doing things like that. And they'll be full. I mean, it's crazy to me for Thanksgiving, Christmas. But if we come up with something in the city of Houston and every, major city in the smaller areas where these kids can have a place, they can have a meal, they can have a mentor, a big brother, a big sister, or a type of mother figure, father figure, somebody to step in and just let them know, hey, listen, your parent is not bad. Right. That's the message that we need to get across to them. Your parent isn't bad. They made a bad choice. Right. They made a wrong choice, because they don't need to go through life thinking my parent is a bad person. And that's where it gets mixed up. And the system does fail us. The parent goes in, and then most of the time they go back in. Yes. Instead of rehabilitating them and helping them and getting them back on their feet, they end up going back to the same familiar crimes or whatever it is that they know, because it's comfortable. It's more comfortable to them, and they've lost every bit of stability, because most of the time the parents end up getting a divorce. Mm-hmm. The mom or dad moves on, or whoever, they move on. And, after so long, I understand. It's hard to stick around. It really would be hard to stick around. It is, but a lot of people do it. But the ones that don't, they move on. And then when the parent comes out of prison, everything's gone. Everything's taken away.
It start all over.
And
then it's hard to get a job. It's hard to find somewhere to live. I mean, so on top of all of that, you have all these other different obstacles standing in the way. And just to go back to just even bringing the children together, just to let them know you're not the only one, because sometimes we tend to think that I'm the only one who's going through this, or this situation is unique to me. And so if they can see that they're not the only ones that are impacted, so you know how you're saying,
one out of 25 kids.
You see how the retreat, but if we can bring them together and let them know, like, you're not alone, even link them up, we have support groups for adults, maybe if we maybe explore doing something like that with the children, bringing them together, letting them know that you're not alone, like, this is, and even doing prison ministry, we know that a lot of people that are incarcerated are due because they have habits, addictions.
Right, exactly.
And prisons aren't rehabilitation, so that's why a lot of times they come out and end up going back in and doing the same thing, because they haven't gotten the help that they really need.
Exactly. They haven't gotten the help, and most of the time they can get more drugs in prison than they can on the outside. Right. It's more accessible. Mm-hmm. So when you put those two together, their habits were never addressed. Right. The people I know that have gone to prison, or because of drugs.
Right.
And they're doing a hard time. I'm talking, 30 plus years
Right.
for a drug habit. These people they didn't murder somebody, nothing like that. It's for a drug habit. They were feeding their drug habits. So when they go in, then they have to leave their kids behind.
Right.
And then their kids end up starting to follow the same steps, and because they do have an absent parent,
Right.
and things are not addressed.
Right.
In my family, I said that I wanted to be the breaker, the cycle breaker.
Right.
I didn't want to follow those same bad behaviors and bad patterns. I wanted to do something better. I wanted to completely just break that cycle.
Right.
And it has been really hard because I've been through so much myself.
Right.
But I look at the things that I'm trying to do, and it takes a lot of work, and it is mentally challenging, physically. I mean, it is a lot sometimes.
Right.
And so I can understand, with kids especially, it takes your even as a parent, stay-at-home parent, or you have two parents at home,
Right.
it's challenging
Right.
enough,
Yeah,
right?
So yeah, imagine what I'm gonna being away and locked up and not having access to them, or when you do, it's very limited.
Right.
Phone calls, and then maybe visits
That's
occasionally.
the other thing.
Yeah.
Let them, to me, I would say let them call for a period of time so they can talk to their children. If you got to have computer access, like an email, to where your child can write you a letter.
And they're doing that
something.
now. They're doing that now, and I have experience because, like I said, my husband just recently, he had an accident, and it wasn't even anything that was like, it was a technicality. He got locked up on a technicality because he wasn't the one who called 911. So just an incidents like that where you haven't really committed a crime just on a technicality, and now you're locked up. So like you said, that doesn't necessarily mean you're a bad person.
Right.
You did something like horrible, but just on a technicality. And so now your freedom's been snatched away, your whole family is being impacted by it.
So let me ask you, what are the impacts that it had on your family?
We had to give up, we had to go move in with relatives. So, just even having him there, he lost his job, he was a chemical engineer.
Wow.
Right.
Wow.
On the same job for 19 years.
Unbelievable.
So lost all of that. Just seemed like we lost everything, and then even my son, not having him there for the games and just all of that, just his presence, and then going to prison and just feeling like humiliated, but then seeing like all these other people there with their babies and their children. I mean, it was devastating, you know what I'm saying? And it's still kind of devastating, even though he's home now and been home for a while. It still has its impact because, like I said, once you go to prison or whatever, you have that stigma. No one's going to really be asking your whole story. They're going to just be like, oh, you went to prison, you're a bad person. That's
it's like
it.
you're labeled for life.
Right. And so now you just have to make your own way. And so I can just only imagine, what about those people who have life or aren't, like you said, 20 and 30 years? Like, I can't imagine, and we only went through it for, a year and a half?
Wow.
And it devastated our lives. So I am just like, wow. But, lately we've been hearing in the media a lot with prison reform and things. But I have not heard conversations or it be addressed about the children that are being impacted. So,
and the children is our future.
Right.
That is our entire future. And that's where we need to definitely start. We need to do something because these kids, they go in with a parent and, they see their parent, and it's almost, you make small talk when you go in. You don't get to the deep-rooted issues because there's no time.
It's hard to parent when you have the children, when you're right in the house with them. So imagine trying to parent being locked up over the phone or at occasional visits.
Wow.
That doesn't work.
Yeah,
really.
It doesn't. And I commend you for being so strong because I know it's really, really hard. And this is our topic for today. We're talking about children behind, basically, and I'm just going to say they're like behind bars too,
Right.
really, because I had that vision in my head of, the incarcerated one behind bars, but if you look at it, actually, their families behind bars too, because their whole entire life is impacted, because when they get out, they are labeled, and unless they have something to turn to, or they already have money stashed away, or they already have something set up, it's going to be very, very hard for them to get out and get a job. And I hear that a lot is, well, they can go get a job. They can get a job, but is it a chemical engineer yet?
No,
is it that
no,
position?
absolutely
or
not.
And that's what happens is when I feel like whenever you get out and you've done your time, that should be a wash.
A clean slate.
That should be a clean slate. Why spend the rest of your entire life? Why is that fair? You've already done your time. I get it, if you've hurt someone to
Right,
extreme,
yeah.
or you've killed someone, I get that. But if you're in for drug charges or something like that, and it's something that can be helped. You can get help for it. You can go to treatment for it, something like that. Why is that not a wash? Why does that have to stick with you? I don't understand that. That doesn't make any sense to me.
Right.
And then not only that, you have parole after.
Oh, yeah.
You have to go to all the
failure.
visits. That's what it is. You're almost set up to fail. I was helping somebody, and I helped her for a long time, and she would be like, she was on parole. And she would say, oh, I got to go to this meeting. I got to go to this. I got to go to that. And I said, wait a minute. You're doing this like 5 times a week. You're having to walk, number one, all the way over here. I get people make mistakes. I get it. So please, people, I understand you got in trouble. I get we're going to have to face it. I understand that.
Absolutely.
But to me, when you've got 5 to 15 different places you got to go to, you've got to walk, number one, because you can't drive. You don't have a vehicle now. But you're trying to get to these places, and you're trying to hold down a job, and you're trying to get to your meetings and not break probation, parole, all of those things. How is that not setting you up for failure? That to me is like completely setting you up for failure, because you do not physically have the time or the energy or the mental capacity just to be able to do all that stuff. It doesn't make any sense to me. One time a month, one time, do your test, your urine test, or whatever you have to do. I get that. But every week, 5 times a week or whatever, and then trying to hold down a job and all of that. And sometimes I feel like, is it the system in that particular town? Is it, are they trying to set you up, or what's happening? I don't understand it, because I see some people that murder people, they get 10 years.
Yes.
10 years. And then I see, and I don't even want to go into all that because it really just pisses me off. And I'm not going to say it, so I'm going to stay away from that area. But and we're just going to go back to the children. They need mentors. They need guidance.
Right. So that's what I was thinking. Let's throw out some solutions. First of all, let's have more conversations.
Yeah.
About this. Let's even
counselors in school.
Yes. Let's get mentors, like you said. Let's get mentors that go out here and really even reform. If you've been through the prison system, you're a children mentor, or you're an adult who had a parent, like myself, reach back out, because you went through that. You can kind of reach back out and share that experience and let them know, like, yeah, I went through that, but I don't look like what I've been through. Right. You can be successful. You can go and help someone else. So I love that we're doing this. I love that we're talking about this and that we're putting it out there. And I just encourage those, if you are a survivor, you do have the time, or you are passionate about this, get out here, speak about this. We're coming up, in election times. These are things that we need to be talking about, getting on the ballots, instead of all the other things that we're talking about. Because like you said, the children are our future. And if we're not addressing these issues now, we're going to have to deal with these issues later.
Yeah. Exactly. And that's what happens is we have to clean it up now because we don't want to deal with it later. And I'll hear people say, well, we're having to pay, and it comes out of our tax dollars. I get it, but if you nip it in the bud now, you'll have less kids and less people go in later on. So eventually, it's going to be a wash.
Right.
You're not going to have to pay. We hopefully get a break in that area, but
because I've learned if you're proactive, then you don't have to be reactive.
Absolutely.
So you can, like you said, you can nip it in the bud. So if we're proactive now about really addressing these issues and talking more about it, because we rarely hear about the children that are being affected. We know we can skim over it, but there's not really. We have prison ministries, but what about these children who are being left behind? And so I love that we're doing this and we're talking about this. These statistics are real. These numbers are high. Yeah.
I'm just looking at all of the things, the challenges that these kids face, and it's not attending school regularly, missing school for the same amount of time on specific days because they have prison visits, having less clothes. Their clothes are not appropriate for them. Coming to school with no lunch, no lunch sacks, having no breakfast. Not having school supplies. A lot of them feel sick all the time, whether it's like physically sick, emotionally sick, a lot of anxiety going on, because then now you have to deal with counselors and all kinds of things, psychologists and everything.
And think about when events go on.
Exactly, not able to participate in school activities. Being bullied, that's a huge thing, is just be a bully.
Yeah.
And
probably trying to make up excuses why their parents aren't there or didn't show up. Can you imagine?
Oh, girl, I felt horrible yesterday. Let me tell you what happened yesterday. And I felt terrible. And I'm usually on top of everything, but I've had a lot of things going on in my household lately. But my daughter was supposed to call me from cheer, and I was like, hey, you need to call me just a few minutes ahead of time so I can make sure that I am there as soon as the game's over. Okay, I will. Well, she didn't call. And so her coach stayed with her. I live like 11 minutes away. Mm-hmm. But I was like, listen, you have to call me. And just in that short period of time where I wasn't there, I felt horrible. I felt like a piece of crap. And I was like, I am like, my week has been so crazy that I'm not on top of my game. So I can't even imagine how these kids feel on a daily basis with no parent, and maybe one, I'm not saying none of them go, but I'm like, most of the time the other parent has to work. Yes. They have to work. They cannot get away from work.
Yeah, you have to.
And then you think about a lot of the incarcerated, they don't get visits because they're they're 20 hours away from where the child lives, and it's hard, the phone calls, the gasoline to try to get there. And that's the other thing. We should try to come up with something to where they have buses and they can meet on a specific Sunday or whatever it is. Take the kids to, have a father, son, a mother, daughter, or whatever it is, and take the child there so they don't have to miss visitation.
Right.
There's so many things that we can do to help. Right. And that's the big thing, is why? Why are we not doing these things? Why does it have to come to where more people are being incarcerated, more children are falling through the cracks? Why can't we do something more? And I don't understand. I have a really hard time with that.
And I think we become desensitized. Even me going through it, we're so preoccupied with just making it.
With ourselves, with
right. And so really, a lot of times we block out things. And so until it's really brought to our attention, that's why it's important to have these talks and shows and people like you who bring it to our attention, because sometimes we're just walking through life, and just really pretty much making it until someone really brings it to our awareness. We don't even realize that now that I'm sitting here thinking like, if it impacted me, you have to think of all the other children. Because I remember all those people that not just in that one prison I was going to visit. It was a lot. So there are prisons all over. So just imagine.
And let me say to the whole U.S., if you're in there for marijuana and your state has now legalized marijuana, get them out. You're wasting our tax dollars. You're wasting America's tax dollars. Why are they still in there? Why? I don't understand that. You know, a lot of states have now legalized marijuana. And then I look at how many people are still incarcerated for a marijuana charge. Why? Why are they still in there? Get them out.
Yeah.
Like, let them live.
Yeah.
I mean, they're going to come out and they're going to be like, what the hell? I was in there for 20 years and now it's illegal everywhere. Like, that doesn't make any sense to me.
Right.
We are, you know, washing our tax dollars down the drain because of that. That makes no sense to me whatsoever.
And I think too, like,
and I'm not saying
right.
I'm not pro. I'm not
Right.
saying no.
Right.
I'm not saying I'm pro. Whatever.
Right. Well,
I'm just saying it's logical.
But
It makes sense.
It makes sense.
It makes sense. If your state has legalized marijuana, let's say California, and you have 60,000 inmates in there for on a drug, you know, a marijuana charge, and you have now legalized marijuana. Why is your prisoner still in there on a marijuana charge? Get them out. Let them go home to their families and let them enjoy what time they have left. Because it's not right.
And in the meantime, a lot of our children are spending a lot of time in school. So we may want to implement some programs in there, in the schools, some after-school programs, some support systems, you know, where children are spending a lot of their time, and put these programs and be aware, do the research, get the demographics, find out who these children are that are being impacted, and be there for them, and provide mentoring programs specifically for them, because that's a specific issue that needs to be handled, you know, counseling, and provide all those type of things, because I don't hear anything about that. You know, all I know is go to jail, if prison, if you're lucky enough to get out, you just go on with life.
Yeah, this isn't monopoly.
Right.
I mean,
You just go on with life. But even after they get out, those are some things that may even want to be addressed, because even the person who was incarcerated, they still have issues they need to deal with, and so they should even have some post programs for, you know, the people that are coming home.
Absolutely, they have to have something.
Right, so they can know, you know, the children can get it out and talk about it, and then maybe even give them the tools to say, hey, I made bad choices, or even let them know, like, prison is not a place you want to be. There's nothing great about prison.
Exactly.
There's nothing great about going to prison and, you know, having those conversations.
Yeah, and it's good for a lot of the inmates to come out and speak to the schools. And I would say to the school system, you know, if Joe wants to speak and let kids know and let them know about what is going on and their experience, try to let them speak. You know, everything cannot be bad. Right. You know, when they go to a school, they should be able to voice and be able to say, hey, listen, I was there. These are the things I've learned. Right. These are the things I've dealt with. And so I think it's really important.
Right. And when we're talking about prison reform, let's include the children that are being impacted. Mm-hmm. Let's have conversations about that. Let's have bills and programs consider for that, because I don't hear anything about that either.
That's the other thing I was looking at is, so you have a 2-family income, and you know, when one parent, they make a mistake, they get sent away. Now you're down to one, and I'm going through this right now, so I know it's complete hell, and it is a lot of hardship on a family.
Yes.
So then you know, you end up having to move. You have to take your child out of their environment. We have to, in some way, keep the child in their environment, in the only environment they've grown up in or that they know. We have to keep them safe and feeling safe. because being a military, having a military family and moving your children and things like that, you move and move and move. I already know what that's
Right.
like. And children do get tired of moving,
Yes.
and they do become a little introverted
Right.
because they don't know how to make friends anymore. They're just like, oh, well, I'm moving again, so there's no point in even trying. I've heard that a lot. Is like, well, I'm probably going to move again, so why even try?
Right.
And it's heartbreaking. It really is heartbreaking. And we have got to step up as a society. We've got to love these children. And a lot of them are in foster care. That is
Which is a
a whole other
monster.
topic.
Yeah, right.
Is like, they're in foster care, and God knows what's going on in the foster
Right.
care system. We don't know. I know there are a lot of amazing families out there, willing and loving, that are willing to take children and help them, and which is unbelievable. It's really beautiful.
Yes.
But then there are also I hear a lot of horror stories.
Yeah, absolutely.
So you just kind of pray that
Right.
these kids are going to a good home.
Right.
And they're not being bounced around. And we do, I will say, we live in a really cruel, sinful world. But if we start stepping up and taking care of some of these things and getting to the bottom,
Right.
and I'm not talking about just taking care of the top crap, because that's not going to do anything.
No.
But if we get to the ugliness of it and the truth, you people are incarcerated because why? A lot of them may suffer with addictions,
Right.
or they were molested at a young age, so they end up repeating
Right.
these things.
Patterns, right.
If you get to the bottom monster of it and knock it and clean it out and take care of it, you won't see such a high number in the prison system.
Right.
You won't. And then that happens. Then you've got a child that has now a parent that has these habits and things like that, and it ends up, it's like a domino effect. And then the child picks it up, and then when they get in their teen years, then it goes on to them, and it just keeps going, and it never stops.
And I would encourage your listeners, if you're listening and you feel touched by this, you think that this is something that you want to do, leave and drop a comment. We'll contact you and help you. There are a lot of fundings out here for new programs.
Yes.
And sometimes we need to start at the grassroots. We can't look for the government or to do things
Look
for
for each other.
Right.
We gotta,
we need
the
to take care of
government's
our own.
Exactly. And I will say this, government is government, and they're not our gods. They are there to monitor the
Right.
world such, but we got to do our own
Yes.
crap. Like,
Let's help our own,
let's help our own people. We need to do it ourselves.
Right.
We need to, we can't keep pointing a finger at other people and blaming everybody else.
Right.
We got to be held accountable for some of this crap. We've got to do it and take care of it. And you make a mistake, own up to it and move on.
Yes.
Move on, grab onto your loved
Yes.
ones because they love you. When you went in, they loved you. When you come out, they love you. And they're still going to be there for you, and they're still going to love you.
Right.
And for the parent who has left, don't plant bad
Right.
seeds.
No.
That's one thing that really gets to me. Is they start bashing the parent, or they start planting the seeds like, your mom or dad's no good, or this
Right.
and that. Don't do that. And you're just hurting that kid even more because they love,
Right.
those kids love a parent regardless.
Right. And how
I
can you
see
hate
it.
someone that's you're part of?
Exactly.
Yeah, so you
Exactly.
don't want them to feel like that. And if you have a platform like Kelly, talk about it. Bring these issues up. Use your platform for something positive, and talk about these issues and get more discussions out here and get more people aware of what's going on. And let's get, let's not be so desensitized, about topics. So
Yeah.
I love that you're doing this. I love that you're bringing up these topics and just making us think. Because I'm even leaving here, thinking like, wow, you know, I can do more.
What can we do? You know, what can we do? There's so much, and I see, oh, well, we can stand together, we can rally and things, but let's do something.
We can spread the word like we're doing.
Yeah,
you know,
but we have to take action.
Yeah, we have to find out where these children are, and how we can mentor them, and who we can get to help these children, to counsel them, to even bring them together, just so they know that they're not alone and that there are other people that are going through the same thing. And so again, I would just encourage people, if you have a platform, even if you don't, create one.
Absolutely.
You know, this in today's society, you can.
So many avenues, right?
YouTube influencer, you can do Facebook, Instagram, get on and talk about things that are impacting.
And those who have been incarcerated, make a YouTube blog, you know, reach out to some of these kids and talk to them, you know, and of course make sure it's okay with their parent or guardian, you know.
Or even if you're an adult who had a parent that was in prison, talk about that. Talk about how you got through that, you know. And even that, there's power in the testimony, you know.
So much.
If you share your testimony and let them know, look, I don't look like what I've been through. You would never guess.
Wow.
So this is just a temporary thing. And sometimes God gives his greatest soldiers the greatest struggles.
That's exactly. And that's what I always say is, I have been literally through hell in my life, and
look
you
how
know,
good you looking.
I was like, I have been at the bottom of the barrel, right? And for me to hold a crown is like, if number one, it was something I probably never thought I would ever want to do, like, right? But now I look at it because it is for education and literacy, and I look at it and I'm like, you know, there was a reason for it. There was a reason for my struggles. I used to question why did I have to go through this? Why the hell did I have to go through so much? And now I'm like, thank you.
Yes.
I heard like hell, I have so many issues because of abuse and things like that, but I thank God now that I went through it, because I would rather go through it 10 times over if I could help someone else.
But that's what makes you real.
That's real talk.
That's what makes you real. Because you can keep it real, because you can talk on things. No one wants to hear about what you heard about or what you read about. They want to know what you went through and what you survived. And so that's why you are real. Because you keep it real and talk about real topics.
You know, you have to.
Yes.
You really have to, because nobody wants to listen to anybody. They don't want to take no advice. They don't want to listen if you haven't gone through those things, because they want to share their experience. They want to know, listen, I've gone through hell, and it's okay. I'm okay saying that. I'm okay saying that I was at points in my life where I had no place to go, or that, you know, I'm ashamed of, but, you know, I did drugs, or, you know, that I, you know, just stupid crap. That's stupid stuff. And the thing is, like, I'm a girl. Number one, I'm a girl. Number two, I was a pretty, you know, when I was young, I was a girl. You know, so for me, for a woman, it's much easier to get by in life than a man. And I will say that with my whole heart. Because a girl can trick and manipulate, and guys do too, don't get me wrong, but it's easier for a girl, because there are so many guys out there just willing, and that's the difference. And somebody asked me one time, they were like, well, how'd you make it? Well, I've had street smarts. I wasn't the greatest in school. Like, that wasn't my strong suit. And I'm just going to tell the world, it was not my strong suit. I struggled. I'm dyslexic, and I had different issues. I did struggle. But I was a people person. I loved people, and I loved to talk. And for a long time, I had such horrible anxiety because of things that I went through and struggles that I went through. I had post-traumatic, I had anxiety, I had so many disorders that I was just like, boom, boom, label. And I was like, you know what, that's not who I'm going to be. That's not who I want to be. I want to be strong. I want to be independent. I want to do something, and I want to help other people. And that is one thing that I was like, you know what, God, if you will give me something. Give me a platform. Give me something. I will preach. I will share your word, and I will tell every kid out there that you are loved. You are so loved by God, and I want you to know, just because things are happening in your life and you're going through difficult or tragic times doesn't mean that you are not loved, because you are loved.
And you are not your parent.
You are not your parent.
And their life is not your life, and their choices are not your choices.
And don't think you have to follow in their footsteps.
Absolutely
because you are not them.
Right.
You can rise above. You can do so much. Be that person.
Right.
Be that person. You don't have to fall victim to your parents' mistakes.
Right.
And that is one thing I learned, is like, I am never going to be like so-and-so.
Right.
I'm never going to do that.
Yes.
And I did for a short period of time, and then I was like, whoa, wait a minute. Like, I do not want to be that person.
Right.
And you can change. You can actually really live your life to do great things.
Right.
But it takes work. It
Absolutely.
takes effort. And you can't be lazy.
No.
There's late days where I'm like, I do not want to get up. I do not want to do nothing.
Right.
And there's times where I'm like, I have so much to do, and I get overwhelmed.
Right.
And I still, there's times where I'm just like, oh my gosh, like, I have so much to do. I have 1,500 emails. I have 1,000 messages, and I've got to go through it all.
But yet you make it here
I still
to
make
help
it here.
others and to talk about issues that are impacting other people.
Yeah,
And
it's only one day a week, and I hope that we can reach someone out there. We can reach children. And if you're tuning in and you have somebody or you know somebody, give them a hug.
Yes.
Let them know, hey, you know what?
Yes.
It's going to be okay. We can work through this.
Yes.
And you are not a bad person.
Right.
Your parents aren't bad. They made bad choices. And that is one thing I love. I love whenever someone says, you know what? They're not a bad person. They just made a bad choice. And we all make bad choices.
The Lord knows.
Yeah, right? So some of us, like me, are just, they get a little blessed. Yeah, for me, I was one of those that I can remember I got in trouble one time, and now I think about it and I'm like, damn, I probably would be in a lot of trouble. But I actually took my handcuffs off in the back seat. I remember taking it off, and I threw it right in the front seat, and I was like, I'm not wearing these.
Right.
And I think about that, and I'm like, man, like, how crazy was I to do something like that? But I did. And I was like, but that moment on, I was like, I'm never going to get in trouble again.
Right.
And I never got in trouble again. But it was stupid.
Right.
It was a mistake. I would never, don't ever do that, guys, because it's
And
so
even,
wrong.
And even for those people who may not have been directly impacted by it, but if you made it and you're doing something positive in your life, or you have businesses and things like that, give back, reach out, share, make an impact. Use your influence to influence the lives of others for something positive.
Yeah, because a lot of times our mentality is, well, why should I do this because they're the ones that screwed up? Well, it's not really that you're doing it for them. Look to their child.
Right.
Because that's who
But if you're blessed, then you're blessed to be a blessing.
Yeah, you're blessed to be a blessing. And I strongly believe that. I believe that, you were given and you're blessed with it. It's not yours anyways.
Right.
It's all God's. Everything belongs to God.
Absolutely.
But, give back. Because
Right.
I promise you will just keep getting tenfold over and
Yes.
over. You will. And there are a lot of people out there in need. And I'm not talking about just children who are impacted. I'm talking about children in foster homes, and you've got Christmas coming up right around the corner. And I'm sure little Johnny would love something.
Yes.
Something. The other thing is pictures. I was thinking about this, and I was thinking about all the inmates in jail and how many times I've been in there. They love pictures.
Yes.
They love letters. And this really hit me because I was like, why the hell am I not making more time and writing more letters? Why? What is so important that I cannot write a 5-minute letter, or I can't type it up and print it out and stick it in the mail? And that really got to me because I am no better than.
Right.
And, these people look forward to just a little letter, one letter that you can type up or write in 10 minutes. And they look forward all week to one letter. And I thought about that, and I was like, let little Johnny write a letter. Help him write a letter.
Yes.
If you're a parent or a guardian with this child, help them write a letter to their parent.
Yeah.
I mean, that to me is heartfelt.
Right.
They're going to treasure that. And those relationships, you want those to build and be strong, because when they get out, you want little Johnny to love and adore and accept their father and mother, even if they've been away for 10 years.
Right.
You still want that.
Yeah.
And that's what happens a lot of time is they think, oh, my parent forgot about me. They didn't forget about you. You just, somewhere along the way, that communication stopped.
Yes.
And if you don't communicate, it's going to stop.
Yes.
And you have to communicate, whether it's email or a letter or, a phone call or something. But, and it's just as big as our responsibility on the outside as them on the inside.
Absolutely. And there's so many different scenarios that we can talk about. But whatever the scenario is, at the end of the day, the bottom line is that there are children who are out here being negatively impacted, who need mentors, who need support. And so let's do that. If you have the time, you have the heart for that. Tag, share, let's talk about it.
Get into prison ministry.
Yeah.
Kairos is amazing. There are a lot of different prison ministries out there that you can get in touch with.
And if you don't know any specifically, Google is your best friend. Google.
Get involved with the church.
Yes.
They're always going inside. That's one thing I love about the churches is they go inside and they love on people. They cook them a warm meal. They save them. They get them baptized. And that's one thing I really, really love about the churches.
Yes.
Because they do have people with hearts that they want to take you inside. They want to get you equipped. They want you to be a leader, a mentor for somebody else.
Right.
And so if you're going in, chances are somebody's going to be impacted on the inside. And then that person is just going to impact someone else. So, I mean, it's a really big, it's a domino effect.
Yes.
Everything.
And look, this is tons of information. So this is a big deal and a big issue.
It is.
And we can talk about this, I'm sure, for eternity. But, bottom line, there are people who are hurting, children mainly. So let's help. Let's talk about it. If you have a platform, talk about it. Spread the word. Let people know that this is an issue that's really not being talked about. Because even until today, I have not given this a lot of thought. So, and I'm sure if I'm like that, there are probably plenty of other people who are the same way. Because like you said, we just go on with life.
Yeah.
We become desensitized.
We're like robots.
Oh yeah, we become desensitized. And so until we hear things, that's why it's important for people like yourself to use your platform to talk about these things, to discuss these alarming numbers, and to really begin to address these things. So if you have a platform, if you don't, create a platform to talk about this.
Absolutely.
And,
YouTube is free. I mean, get on there and do something.
And share, tag, and talk about it. So.
And the other thing is find ways to identify and find the kids in your community who have incarcerated parents.
Yes.
And that's a big thing is look up how to identify the ones who do need your help, because a lot of kids don't want to talk about it. They want to keep it private.
Right.
And then when you become close with them, then you're kind of shocked. Like, oh, little Johnny's like, you don't know what to think, and you're scared to say it. Like, you don't know what to say to them because you don't know where they're at in their heart. So that's one thing is look up ways to identify the ones in your community, get a hold of their families, somehow. And, and the other thing is find out through their guardian or their parent, where they're at, where their heart's at. Are they angry with their parent? Are they shut off?
Right.
Or can you, eventually you will get to them. Right. Eventually you will talk to them and say the right words, pray for the right words to say. But yeah, it's a thing that I absolutely love to discuss is this because it is about the children.
Yes.
We are raised in a society where everything wrong seems to be acceptable now. And, and I'm talking about from bullying to anything.
Right.
It's like, it's almost like it's acceptable.
Yeah.
And it's not, you guys. It's not, it should not, absolutely should not be, and it should never be brushed underneath the rug. It
Right.
should be addressed. We have to address
Right. We
these
should
things.
begin to look at, too, even some of these children who are, or young people who are committing these violent crimes. A lot of the times they come from a pattern and a background. And so if we address this and nip it in the bud, we can eliminate, even future things. We may not be able to attack everything, but like you said, if you're touched by something that you heard tonight or feel like this is something that you're passionate about, look up programs in your area. If they are none, create them. If you need help creating them, reach out to us. We'll gladly steer you the right way.
Yeah, if you look at all of the people who have been incarcerated, most of the time their parent was incarcerated.
It's a generational curse.
It is.
So we're
Or
ready
if
to break
you,
that. Yeah.
if you look at the kids who are committing crimes, high crimes right now, all of them are being raised by a grandparent or one parent, and the mother or father is overworked, maybe underpaid, and the time, the time is not there for them. And so what happens is they start getting in trouble. And, boom, then they're in trouble too. And I watch some programs where a lot of incarcerated parents actually were in there with their children.
Yeah.
And that to me is
they were
crazy.
born in prison. So you have that stigma on you already. You come out locked up.
And then the other thing is like, how can we get them out when they do come out and they're freed, and keep them from going back in?
Yeah.
We have to have those rehabilitation programs in place, ready, so that they don't go back in, so that we can stop this cycle.
Right.
So we have to address everything. And it starts with addressing why did you go in the first place.
Right. We all can't do everything. So if there's a part that stands out for you, take on that part. Break it down in
absolutely.
pieces, and
if it's drugs,
whatever it is, right.
Talking about drugs, or if you're
passion working with children,
exactly.
counseling,
Psychological.
Yeah.
I mean, it goes deep, and I'm saying that because you have ones that are in there for alcohol, for DWIs, then DUIs, then sexual molestation, rape. But I'm telling you that chances are, if they're in there for those reasons, they were either born in it, it was already in their family, they were already had that on them anyways. Because a lot of times if you have alcoholic, father, mother, whatever, you have that in your genes already.
Right.
So you're gonna get those traits. That's one reason I try very hard not to drink.
Right.
Because I already know it's in my genes very, very strong.
Right.
So I'm like, I'm just going to stay away from it because I know myself.
Right.
And you got to know yourself.
Yes.
You got to know yourself because I know myself, and I know I do not want to do those things because I'm a complete idiot. If I'm drinking, I'm just one of those that have no control. And I know that about myself.
Yes.
Learn who you are.
Right.
Learn if you cannot handle it, you shouldn't be doing it. Because it's just going to get you in trouble.
Yes.
And I tell my, all right, so I am so glad to be here with you today. It is Halloween, so I know a lot of you are out there trick-or-treating. I hope you are going to be able to catch the recap and watch a show, but reach out to your loved one because, a lot of us have loved ones who are incarcerated or know somebody that has loved ones that maybe we shut out.
Yeah, and reach out to their children.
Yeah, absolutely.
Reach out to their children and your family. If you've been locked up and you're out and you're living your life and you're making it and successful, go back, give back.
Yes.
I know today I've been inspired to do so, and so I really thank you.
I think
Yeah, because I wasn't thinking about this. Like, hey, that's life. I don't like to dwell on it. That was part of my history, my story. But like you said, it's for a reason. And so I'm just happy to just even be able to share and hope that it helps someone.
And we don't carry shame.
Right, no.
That's right. We do not carry shame.
No, the greater the pain, the greater the glory. So,
I love that.
So tell your story.
Yes.
And you can save somebody else.
So next week, I have an amazing guest, Donna Colo, and we are going to, how shall we? He's got some amazing films, and I'm so excited to see Jericho Road.
Oh.
That movie is going to be amazing.
Okay.
So I know it's going to be good. So I know the trailer's going to be coming out soon, and he's got some posters and things like that, flyers popping up. It's called Jericho Road. Make sure you see it. But yeah, it's going to be good.
Right. So I just encourage all my friends to tune in to the real. You're going to get real topics. And
it is real.
Yeah. She's going to keep it real.
I have to. This is life.
Yes.
This is life.
I love it.
Can't sugarcoat shit.
No, I love it.
Nothing.
Right.
So, and also, if you're a state like California, any of those who have legalized marijuana, and you have incarcerated someone for marijuana, it's our tax dollars.
Let them people go and wipe their records clean, so they can get a job in a house and all those things.
And that's it. Let them get a job. Let them go back into society. It's marijuana, and I'm not saying any of that.
Right.
But we gotta start somewhere. We gotta start somewhere, and that is a huge start.
Yeah.
So I was like, we are wasting a lot of tax dollars.
Well, you know what? We got another topic. I'm sure we can get
Snoop Dogg. We'll find somebody. But anyways, we love you. Thank you. We are in Houston, Texas.
Thanks for having me. I enjoyed myself. Yes, great topic. Yes.
Yeah, it was awesome. So we will see you next week. So
Be
bye,
blessed.
guys.
Yes, be
bye.
Blessed. Be blessed.